And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at Dungeon Academy. There's a lot of people going into dungeons, right? You need to be prepared for that. So Dungeon Academy is a class where you're going to learn to go through a dungeon. Alright, but what is this game? This game is what we call a roll and write game, where you roll dice and then you write down stuff. However, this is a thematic one in which you're going to roll dice, place them in a grid, and then that grid becomes a dungeon, and you are trying to figure out the most efficient way to go through that dungeon. It's certainly different than most of these games that I've seen. Let me show you. At the beginning of the game, each player is going to get one of these sheets of the booklet here. They're two-sided, all the same. And you're also going to take a character here, the adventurer that you're going to go through the dungeon with. Each adventurer has a special power, and they have a certain number of life points and mana points on each side. And you will take points of those equal to that amount and put them near your character. You're going to be playing through 4 levels of a dungeon, and so for each level, what's going to happen is you're going to take this lid here, and you're basically going to roll some dice into it, like this, pushing them down so they form a grid. You'll then put this on top, you'll pick a timer, and basically deciding how long you want to play the game, and then you're going to flip it over like this, remove it, and there's the dungeon. Now to go through a dungeon, players are going to simultaneously be drawing a line on their sheet that shows how they're going to go through the dungeon. They must start from one of the outside squares and on another outside square. They can't move diagonally, and they can't go to the same spot twice. Now, as they're doing this, once they finish, they're going to be grabbing these cards here next to the board to show that they finish in whatever order. As you move through here, each of these different spots is going to do something depending on what you land on. If you land on a potion, you will gain a health point or a mana point immediately. However, you can't go above your maximum amounts. It's something you can't hold the potion. You get it immediately. If you go through a monster, there are small blob monsters and bigger red monsters and small blues and bigger blues. When you go through them, you will defeat them by spending hit points or mana points. It costs 1 to kill the small ones and 2 to kill the big ones. As you do that, you will take one of the points you spent and put it there. So even if it takes 2 to kill these guys, I'm just going to put 1 on my sheet to show that I've killed a big guy here. If you can't kill one for whatever reason, like you run out of health or mana, then you're instantly not dead but knocked out, and you won't get any more points or any points at all from that particular dungeon. Once everyone is finished, you also will use this character piece here to kind of show, each person you'll move through and show how they move through the dungeon and go through one spot at a time. Players are going to score points. You're going to get a point for every monster you've killed. That's what these tokens are used for, to place up here. And you might get points from various other things. And then you'll also mark what your health is here that you started with. And that's in case something happens to you or you need to redo it. This is just so you know what you start with. If you ever get knocked out or whatever, your health will go back up to your max amounts. Also, once per each level, you can pick one of these quests to go on, which is basically bonus points. So this one gives you a point for every red monster, every blue monster, every small monster, and every large monster. So if I killed a bunch of large monsters in a round, I might pick this one, and I'll score that. And at the end of the game, you're going to be adding together all these different scores that you got, and to get your final score to see who won. Between rounds, players are going to draw a bunch of treasure equal to the number of players, and whoever took the number 1 is going to pick one of these, and then you'll pass them around, and each player will get them. Sometimes they're things you can use one time, like this will give me an extra coin for every small ghost that I've killed. This one gives me an extra coin for every reaper that I've killed. Some of them are just simply worth points if I take them, and some are going to be a card that I can tap this once per round to kill a ghost. Or here my max health goes up by 1. So there's different cards that you'll be able to use as the game goes by. Starting with the second round, one of the dice is going to be replaced with this labyrinth die, and when this shows up, it's going to basically be a path there where you can't go through walls and certain sides. You lose a coin if you step on a banana peel. You get a coin if you go here, or just a nothing die. And in the fourth round, you'll throw in this big die, which brings in these big bad bosses that if you defeat them, they take 3 life to kill, but they give you 3 gold for defeating them, or this takes 3 life and 3 mana, and you get that, or this is just nothing, you can't go in that room. And, so there's various things that you can get. And as I said, there's also special abilities and all, and this is all listed in here. It shows you the different sides of the boss die and the labyrinth die, and what all the different loot cards do. As I said, after 4 rounds, whoever has the most points on their sheet is the winner of the game, and if there's a tie, then the order you grab the cards in the last turn is how you determine the winner. Now this thing takes a little bit of work to build, but I really like how it works. I like how you put the dice in like this, so I throw in my dice and move them around, and you could see the dice here briefly, but you don't remember, well, at least most people won't remember what's on the other side, and it works really well. You just lay this on top, flip it over, boom, they're inside. And as you're drawing from your perspective, so it's pretty easy to see what these are. I don't have to sit there and go, what does that do? No, it's a potion, small monster, big monster. These will matter more, and when you're playing with new players, you explain what they all do, but maybe when you quick flip it over, just say, before we start, real quickly, this is what this guy does, this is what the banana peel does, etc. These tokens, there's a ton of them, and it's pretty neat because they're all two-sided. See, they're mana on one side, health on the other. You get a lot of them, and you get characters, and you may not be able to tell too easily from these characters what they do. This guy gets an extra 7 points, but has only 3 health on each side, while you can see these people have more health, but maybe their special power isn't quite so good. And like, for example, she can kill one of these big red monsters once per round. That's pretty useful. But she only has 4 and 3, as opposed to this person has 4 and 4 on both sides. But they get to pick some starting treasure to start the game with. So it's interesting, and these will kind of throw things off. Overall, and these sheets themselves are fantastic. It's pretty well done. It's a very nicely produced game. It's one of the bigger roll and writes that I have. Now, I think the roll and write genre is overcrowded at the moment. There is a new game coming out, it seems, every week. And most of the time, these involve you rolling a dice and you cleverly writing numbers down or filling in spots on a sheet. This one here is different, where the dice themselves become the sheet and you are simply drawing a line through them the best that you can. Now, you could easily just go in a little bit and come out. You could try to go through and get as much stuff as you possibly can, coming out with very little health and mana, which is okay until you go into the second dungeon. And sometimes you might just die on one of the levels so that you can get your health replenished to go through in the 4th level. In fact, it's something you'll learn quickly, is that it's not always best to go into that final level with no health or mana. I enjoy it because I think the theme comes through. Again, with these roll and write games, often there is very little theming in them. You just roll numbers and get things. That's fine. I mean, think Yahtzee style. I don't need a theme in Yahtzee. But this one, I think the theme works, and I enjoy it. I like how each person, there's a bit of a speed element to the game. You want to go through as quickly as you can because you want to be the first person to get treasure. But at the same time, it's not so critical, like, oh, if Billy Bob beats me every single time, well, that's okay, because yes, he gets better treasure than me, but I might sit there and get through a little bit more efficiently through the dungeon than him. And of course, sometimes it's just random. There might be a whole lot of potions. I can get through every space if I go through right. There might be very few potions in a lot of those big monsters. Well, what do? It's interesting in this game that I've played. I've never seen people kind of go through the dungeon the same way. There might be the best path, but here's the thing. You start drawing your line through the dungeon, you're like, oh, that wasn't maybe the best way to go through the dungeon. Well, too bad. You've started, you go through, you finish. It's bigger than a lot of these games are, but it does hold up to 6 people, and it works well because what I do doesn't really affect you other than us grabbing the cards first so that we can get treasures at the end. So everyone is thinking their own way through the dungeon as quickly as they can. I think the components are neat. I think the variety here is neat. If I was making my top 10 roll and write games, this would be on it because it's a lot of fun. And like I said, it feels like a breath of fresh air. It feels like a lot going on in only 20 minutes in the 4 levels. So I enjoy it. and I can highly recommend it, Dungeon Academy. Stay on the tower. Dice Tower Judgment approved.